You've come to the right place. If you're a course creator looking to build more impact, income, and freedom, LMScast is the #1 podcast for course creators just like you. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of the most powerful tool for building, selling, and protecting engaging online courses called LifterLMS. Enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMScast. My name's Chris Badgett and we're joined by a special guest, Pedro Cortez. He's over at cortez.design. Welcome to the show, Pedro.
Hey, welcome, Chris. I'm glad to be on, and hopefully we make this a very useful episode.
So one of the things that happens as I've been in business is sometimes you come across, when you get in the company of other entrepreneurs, you kind of recognize each other a little bit. And then sometimes there's these niches within entrepreneurship or digital business or whatever, like copywriting or conversion optimization or funnels and marketing. And I feel a strong affinity to you because I can tell you're obsessed with these things like I am, and I also need help with these things. I'm open and that I have like incorrect assumptions and am not fully optimized with that. So for the course creator out there, I think this is going to be a great show about improving your messaging and understanding your offer a little better with the goal of getting more leads and closing more sales and having a system and a process to do that for your course or your training-based membership site. I wanted to start by just a quick definition of terms of conversion, messaging, positioning, and a landing page. How's that different from a homepage or whatever? Like, could you just kind of circle the wagons on those terms just so people have a baseline if they're new to this kind of thing?
Okay, sure. Basically the first one is, let's say, the difference between a landing page and a homepage. So the landing page is just whatever page a potential customer lands on. So maybe a page that you created for ads. Maybe that's an article. Sometimes in my case, I attract people with articles. So the article needs to convert to the person as well. And the homepage is just, let's say, if you go to, www.yourdomain.com or something, that's the homepage, like the main page essentially.
And how about conversion? Like what is conversion really?
I mean, conversion is just when you try to get, let's just say for conversion optimization is just when you're trying to get people to, to visit a website and then, take some action. Sometimes trying a product for free or calling you on a phone or whatever. And essentially just want to make as many people as you can to take that action that you define. And, hopefully it is related to a sale.
That's awesome. And marketing is a big topic, but what does messaging mean within that? Like what is that? Communication, but really messaging. What does that mean?
Okay. Yeah, messaging is basically how you explain your offer and how you really explain the benefits it has and why are they important, and really communicating to your ideal buyer. So essentially people buy because they understand. They only buy if they understand how they can use your course or whatever solution you're providing in order to get the results they want. So if they don't understand how they can use it, then they're just not going to buy. So essentially, messaging is just the marketing aspects of exploring those reasons why people buy, and then just putting it out there on whatever getting your potential customers with might be a landing page. It could even be a letter. I mean, whatever you can, or an ad, or whatever you hit them with. The messaging just has to hit their desired outcomes.
And what about positioning? Where does that squeeze in? Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with marketing is it just has like way too many things and way too many names. Sometimes it's confusing, but essentially you kind of want to use them all together. I believe that positioning is the first step before you get to messaging, because if you think of positioning as like, let's say you have a group of people and they could all buy your product, or they could buy anyone else's product. And you are going to look at them and say, who's like the easiest to convert? Who's like my best customer? Who can I provide value the most? Or the other way around, because the two parts to this is, let's say you're a customer, you're like a consumer, and then you look at several products, and you're going to try to find out which one is perfect for you. So the company that took the time to create an offer that is perfect for you is the one that positioned themselves better for that ideal customer, and then they just bid out the entire competition, because as a consumer you looked at all of the other solutions and you say, this isn't ideal for me, so my only chance is to look at that one, like look at that option.
That's awesome. You have a really awesome image on your website, and that's at cortez.design, not .com, it's cortez.design. And it has a picture of people kind of coming into your website, like a lot of people. And then there's some people in the middle that are thinking, I don't get it. How is this different? How does this work? I'm leaving. And then there's one guy who actually converted at a 0.05 conversion rate. And the quote that he's saying is, screw it, let's try it anyways. And I really love that picture, because I have a mature software company and website that does convert, but I know it's not optimized. And a lot of people have that, I don't get it. How is this different? I'm leaving. So when I saw Pedro's schedule a call link, and he's doing this for software companies. So if you have a software company and you want to increase conversion, kind of really get into this, I'd encourage you to check that out. I heard Pedro on another podcast called Rogue Startups, which kind of opened me up into his world and his thinking. And that's how I ended up on his landing page. And here we are having a call where I wanted to share some of that value. He's also got a great book that you can get where he goes into some of the things that we're going to talk about today. Well, now that we kind of have a baseline of knowledge, I guess what's before we get into like how it works and everything, what do you help people do, businesses do, specifically software companies? What is the offer?
Okay, so essentially the offer is really specific to, every offer is really a vehicle to a transformation. So essentially before you make an offer, you need to identify a current position of that company and say, and identify if that's something they are stuck on and they're frustrated about, and then find the thing they really want. So what I help companies with, and then like the offer is like a consequence of that, but first I need to identify those problems. So it's always fixing a problem. So the problem is when you build a SaaS company, which is just an abbreviation of software as a service, just so people understand as well, is the founders usually do the sales themselves, and they can scale the company pretty fast, especially because I work with iTicket SaaS. So they sometimes charge at least like $1,000 a year or something. And then they can scale the company to 50 grand a month, between 50 to 100K a month. And they're doing pretty well, but then they get stuck there because, they started with something that was focused, and they knew their targets, and usually it's maybe they had like another company and created the software to do that. Like it happens all the time. But then as people, they create really good programs, really good products, and then a ton of different people start using it, and then it just becomes a mess. They lose clarity, and then they can't really scale because they tried to they try paid ads with vague messaging and everything, and SaaS is just getting like super competitive. They just and essentially they get stuck. And the way I usually help them is I just coach them throughout my process that I've tried with a ton of companies, and essentially start with positioning and say why who's bringing 80% of the revenue. I'm just going to try to give like a brief presentation on this. Who's bringing like 80% of the revenue? So who's like the easiest one to convert out of all of your segments? And essentially, why are people switching over from the competitors' tools to yours? Because science says that is like 7 times harder to convert someone that is from a competitor. So those people always have the reasons, on what's missing from your tools and what's special about your tool, and that's something you always need to be aware of. So you can, present that on your page, and then it's like taking all those reasons from, and then putting that throughout your entire website, throughout advertising and stuff like that, and then essentially also identifying some channels that are specific to, that are ideal for to attract those customers, because sometimes PPC is there are some ways to get around PPC, and it's still scalable.
That is awesome. Music to my ears. But I wanted to say to you, the listener out there, one of the ultimate hacks is to learn for another industry. So even though we're talking about SaaS companies, software companies, everything that we're talking about here, you can apply to digital, any product, but we're in this case course sales or membership site sales. And for, just to lay an example out there, there's this whole segment of people building courses and training programs and coaching offers in the business niche that are offering marketing courses or growth courses. And let's just use an example of somebody who has an offer and a transformation they can deliver and a process and coaching and everything to help a certain type of company grow from, like, let's say 100K in annual revenue to $1 million. So 6 to 7 figure offer. That's who they want to serve. That's who they help. How, let's get into like some of the nitty gritty on that. Like how would that type of course creator or trainer start the process of, identifying the problems?
Okay. I mean, if the thing is, if a course creator already identified that they want to take someone from 100,000 a year to $1 million a year, then they already identified that stage. So identify the problem, which is already better than most people do. Mm-hmm. But then essentially, this is what really defines problems, and this is like a lesson for life in general. Is it's only a problem if they're either spending time or money, trying to fix it. If they're not, then it's not a problem. It's not a priority. No matter whatever they say is, it's bullshit, to be honest. So you want to look at, just make a list of whatever companies you could take from 100K to 1 million. And then you're just going to figure out, okay, who's already spending time and money getting there? Where are they spending their money? How much is it costing them? Is it working? Is it not working? What's missing? What's not missing? And essentially trying to break down where you can come in, where can you provide the most value, and then try to break up, and try to really make obvious the amount of time or money that it would take from trial and error if they don't follow your proven process, essentially.
That's cool. We're going to jump around a little bit but I want to go fast forward to the conversion point. I heard one time that there's 3 reasons people don't buy. They don't trust you, they don't trust the product, and the one they won't admit to is that they don't trust themselves, that they can get the value out of the product. How do we handle these kinds of objections for our offer?
Okay. I mean, the first one is, they don't trust you. So essentially what you have to do is you kind of just show them whatever companies you've worked with before. You show them you have like a very detailed process. And one very good thing is, like, the best way to do it, even if you don't have like a client or thing, is you provide value first. So if you teach them something, then they will assume you're, an expert at it, essentially. And really, an expert is just knowing more than the person you're selling to. So, as long as you provide that value and you can add some social proof on top of it, you can answer that objection. Then they don't trust the product, right? Is that what you mentioned?
Correct.
That's kind of similar to to having social proof from the results as well. But the other thing that people don't really talk about is highlighting the problems of other solutions. So if they don't trust your product, it doesn't mean like it doesn't work. What really means is they just want to make the best decision, the best buying decision they can, and that just involves removing all of the other options that they have. So what I usually do as an exercise, let's say for the SaaS companies, is SaaS companies have like Trustpilot or something, and you can look at the reviews. You can look at what people are complaining, and then you can just say that. There are also softwares that are like an all-in-one solution. So one easy way that you can do this is you're gonna stop duct taping all these softwares together. Is gonna cost you like a lot of money and everything. So essentially, you just want to make that like a no-brainer, and you want to show them as many use cases as possible. So let's say, do you have like any example of a product that I can use?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could use LifterLMS, I guess, as an example.
Okay. So what you can do is, one, you need to say that this is everything you need to this is everything you need to build a course or a coaching program that is the most complex you want. Like you won't need anything else. Even if you scale 5 or 10 years from now, this is infinite. It has like everything you need and more. And then when you get to a specific industry, you just say, to make it to one, provide the use cases and show the social proof as well, is the way you explain it. You just say, this is how this very successful course in health is using LifterLMS to get this results. So one, they're getting the proof and they're getting the use case. So it's like the easiest way to answer it. And then you can just duplicate that to all of the other niches because it's fairly similar.
Anything else on positioning in terms of presenting your course or your training program as the best solution? Like what else goes into being seen as the best option?
Yeah, being the best option is the way you make it perceive that is you need to make it like the impression you want to people to have is you want people to say this was built for me, essentially. So the positioning is really having that focus of saying I'm building a product that is exactly for that person. And what I like to call positioning 2.0 is you're not some people focus on, I'm just going to do a course. Let's say, use that example from 100 to 1 million a year. So let's say I'm going to build a course for any niche that wants to go from 100K a year to 1 million a year. That's terrible. It's never going to work. Then
Right.
you can do a little bit better. And this is like the limit that people get is I'm going to target accountants. Maybe they have to, I don't know, like a team of accountants or something. And then positioning 2.0 is associating an industry and a transformation. So I want to help accountants that are making 100K from a corporate job and they want to quit their job and start their own thing and still make 100K. That's one transformation. Then other one could be someone that already is already like a freelancer and is making 100K. Then they want to make 200K or 500K or something. Then it's like accountants that want to scale their team so they can free up their time and scale to 50K a month. So there's like endless transitions and within the same industry. So basically the positioning is infinite, and you just have to choose which one you want to focus on first.
That's awesome.
Because then you can present your offer as I help accountants, and then that's like exactly for me, for that stage.
So how do we do that differently, let's say on our just general homepage where we're not sure how they're getting there or whatever, it's just our homepage versus a paid campaign where we can directly target accountants in a certain area or somehow target them as already being somewhat successful and established? A landing page makes sense because you can make it just for them. But how do you do it on a general homepage?
Yeah, the general homepage is you need to identify what are the common things people what are the common use cases people are using and they are looking for, like in general, and that's the thing you present. And then when you get to, let's say, to the case studies, um, like when you get to the social proof part, that's when you segment. So like that, and then you use the social proof, like I said, and then you show like a use case plus the social proof of, oh, this is how this health course is doing great by using LifterLMS and everything. Yours is a little bit different because sometimes in SaaS there are what we call vertical and horizontal solutions. So vertical is when it's very specific to a niche, and horizontal is when it works equally well on all different niches, and it requires a little, some different positioning, but is usually better because it's like infinite. You just start with one niche at a time, and then you evolve in concentric circles, essentially. You just target the easiest one, and then you try to use that one to become famous and the other one as well. One example of an horizontal company could be like ClickFunnels. They just provide websites for all of the other niches, but then they provide affiliates for each niche.
Wow, that's great. Um, One of the things I wanted to ask you about is you have this lean landing page canvas, which is really cool. And one of the things when I see somebody who's good at creating leads and I end up on one of these and it's in Google Drive somewhere, somebody who's good at marketing and lead generation, whenever you open it, you're going to see all these little characters in the top right where there's all these other people on it looking at it too, which means you know how to get traffic. um, and so how, like, I guess this or something else just in general, what advice do you have for lead magnets? Like, yeah, getting people, like, what's counterintuitive that people don't realize about lead magnets?
I mean, lead magnets are just like, let's say lead magnets are something you can offer for free, but you're not going to offer. So sometimes people just say, I'm going to create an ebook and I'm just going to, try to get some leads with an ebook. But the thing is not about an ebook or a free email course or something. It's about fixing the problem. So if you've done the positioning exercise properly and you know the big problems that people really care about, then how to provoke them. So you just essentially say that small little piece of helps you fix a part of that problem, and then they'll opt in very easily. So that's the secret for lead magnets, is just trying to say that fixes a problem, and then if you want people to move forward, you just explain how something else improves a bigger problem. So let's say I how people and people can get an overview of my process and so on, and then I just say, oh, this is like an overview of the process. If you want to fix like a bigger problem and templates and everything, you get the book, essentially. So
That's great. You mentioned earlier, I think, and correct me if I misunderstood you, but you said something about like liking small markets or something like that. What did you mean by that? Recently I've heard like Seth Godin talking about, the minimum viable audience or whatever. Like he's kind of saying something similar. And I just want to know what you mean by like liking small is okay, small is good. What is that about?
yeah, so essentially when you're doing like your positioning exercise, the people that are most likely to convert, or they're like the easiest to convert, is the one that you start with, and then you try to also find these people and the next niche I want to evolve with. So like the only example that comes to mind is I'm working with a company that provides software for dealerships, right? And dealerships can get like pretty big. They have like a bunch of locations and stuff like that. But they also work with a lot of smaller companies that provide the tires or the oil or whatever. And they actually have the same metrics to track. So if we target those companies and we sell them their software, essentially the dealerships will see that they are using this software and they will ask, oh, why are you using this? How is it good? And basically we get referrals to bigger companies by leveraging the smaller companies that are easy to target because they all talk with each other. So you get free referrals. Does that answer?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. Um, I wanted to circle back and ask you about the there's how there's like a disconnect, I think, that makes some people's brains explode, where on one hand they get the advice like you have to have your ideal customer avatar. There's like this one person, either make it a real person or do a amalgamation of all your best, the attributes of your best customer, and it's like this one person that you create content and product for and do marketing to, versus this other camp which is about segmentation and like a reality where there's like multiple avatars. Like, so what's your thinking around those two schools of thought?
Okay. I mean, like I said, it definitely depends on the company. It depends if you have an horizontal or a vertical solution.
Yeah.
And the thing that's on is, I mean, if let's say you have a ton of different customers, if they're using the same tool, they have the same problems. So essentially, you already have something of common to work with. And then you can, if you want to make it even more specific, maybe in the retargeting campaigns, you make it more specific to them, then that's totally fine. So basically it's more of a middle ground. And really that's about it, because one really, that companies is just, don't really know what they're doing. If they have more than 5 avatars, or probably more than 4, then it makes no sense, because they're not finding the patterns on what people have in common. So if they're buying the same product, they have similar problems. You just have to, they always have they have similar problems, but they have different use cases.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you show the problem, then the use cases.
Very cool. Very cool. What about let's say a course creator, a membership site creator is like, they have a good offer, like it's converting, they do organic, they're on the content treadmill, they're pumping out blog posts, podcasts, whatever, and it's working, and then they try to go to paid acquisition, PPC, and they fail. Like but it works on their, like their organic works, but when they go to paid it fails. What do you think is usually, what are the key mistakes they're making when they go to PPC?
I mean, the key mistakes is probably you just assume that people are searching for your solution, and then you use AdWords. You only use AdWords if people are clearly searching for your solution, and if they are, then you get it's going to be pretty hard. But then let's say Facebook, like everyone's on Facebook and stuff like that. It just depends on I mean, on Facebook, I think it works, generally. You just need to do something that, works for you. So if if you offer courses, the best way to do it is you make valuable content on Facebook, and then you promote it, and then you follow up with, you retarget them with a click-through ad that gets you to a lead magnet, or even to a buy page if the course is like very cheap. Or you get them to buy like a small ebook, and then you get them to buy a course or something. So essentially, it's not about the advertising; it's about being on channels that that your customers are. I think you mentioned real estate agents are still offline or something. You just use a channel that they are familiar with. So one thing that real estate agents are familiar with is mail, like direct mail. So you can use lumpy mail, which is like you just add a presence, and then you FedEx it, so people always open it. And then you have the same pitch as a landing page, but on a card. And it costs less than a PPC ad, because it could cost like $5 for them to open it. but they are, just as likely to convert, or probably more, because it's on their desk, and now they either put it in the trash or they call you.
So there is a segment of this, the LifterLMS audience that creates training courses for real estate businesses. So I'd encourage you to press pause, listen to that again, and then go take action on that tip, because that's a really, really good tip. What part of your methodology is PPC, but it's also exploring channels? Can you elaborate on? We get our messaging dialed, we get our positioning right, we get our landing pages in, we scale through PPC. What is the channels part, like the JVs and the Dream 100 and these other things? What is that all about?
Yeah, so there are like other channels that you can still pay for, so they are not organic. JVs um, is when you partner up with someone else and you give them an affiliate fee. So essentially, it's still paid. And what you can do, what usually works a lot really well, is sometimes agencies are providing a service. Let's say for software, sometimes they provide a service, and then the software that my clients are selling, that provide a service. So it just makes sense for them, or to recommend it and get a commission. So that's the kind of thing. For course creators, it could be who's already teaching something similar or something that overlaps, and then you just say, oh, you can get the profits without getting the work of creating another product. Or if you want to create another product, you can just test it without creating it, and you see the demand and everything. So it's the JVs and the Dream 100 goes hand in hand. So Dream 100 is basically a concept that comes from Chet Holmes. I think he died like at 58 or something, like 20 years ago. I don't know. Was like a very smart marketer and direct response guy. And basically what it did is, if you want to be like omnipresent in your market and you want to dominate it, you essentially make a list of the 100 most influential people or channels. So you just divide that by 4 things. It could be podcasts, it could be newsletters, it could be like consultants that you can JV with and stuff like that. And then you just sponsor them. So you can sponsor newsletters, you can sponsor podcasts, because podcasts can get really specific, and they also like way cheaper. So you can reach like a ton of people for, let's say $300 an episode, and you reach like a ton of people, and they are highly targeted, and they have the recommendation from a person they trust. So it's way better than PPC. So those are the kind of things that you can do to get around it.
That is awesome. We're getting towards the end. I just want to ask you a few more things. You've developed this skill set and this specialty, and you've narrowed your niche and your focus. And I know you've done this before, like for clients or whatever, and you've kind of, as a coach or somebody who offers coaching and kind of a done with you service. How did you? I'm trying to help the other people out there who are doing one-on-one consulting, and they're wanting to get into like a coaching done with you model. What advice do you have for just offering done for you to done with you kind of coaching style offer? Like, how did you make that transition? What tips do you have?
Yeah, so essentially you're going to take, this is not really that hard if you have a very well-defined process. So even when I was doing it by myself, I had like a very well-defined process. So essentially I just want to look at, how can I teach my clients this? Why should I teach my clients this? Which person should I teach? How long would it take? And stuff like that. And in my case, because I'm teaching landing page messaging and stuff like that, like I have like, I will help them along with the calls and everything. So essentially it's very similar. And because I had templates on my website and a ton of people checking out, pretty much 24/7. And I saw a couple examples that people did without all my help, then it just makes sense. So the templates are there to where, I can just help people out and pinpoint some things, and they can do it just so they, especially on the positioning side, because the messaging, they can get it right with all those templates. Does that answer your question?
That does. That's brilliant. Well, just a couple, like, just kind of lightning round questions. One of the neat things that I learned from you is about images in your book, which I highly recommend. You can find that over on Pedro's website, cortez.design. Was about images, like how to select images. Like, what are people doing wrong with their images on their home pages and their landing pages?
Okay. I mean, the image is, first you define the copy. So you define the structure, what things need to come up first, and then you define the headlines first, and you need to define the headlines first so you can scroll through the website and just read the headlines and you understand everything. And then from whatever the headline says or whatever that section is supposed to do, because each section has a goal, you just choose an image that supports the headline. And if you come with abstract like illustrations and those pretty stuff that are common nowadays, then it's just going to be distracting from the actual headline. So what you want to do is just make it say exactly the same thing, or you just one really like one good way to do it is sometimes with screenshots or really rough. Let's say you screenshot something on your Mac and then you have those arrows and then you write something in red or something. That's usually better than just having abstract illustrations. But rule of thumb is just defining the copy first and then putting an image that supports that copy, or a GIF, because a GIF can tell. If an image can tell like 1,000 words, a GIF could tell you 10,000.
Another thing you said, which I really appreciated, was stay the heck away from stock photography, which I thought was a good tip. Quick copywriting tip for an email subject line or a Facebook ad, title or whatever. What's a quick copywriting tip?
Okay. I think a good practice is if you start with a question, because if you start with a question, the brain is kind of forced to answer it. And then there are of line generators for copywriting that you can use. Essentially, you just put like a problem and the desired situation, and then it generates a bunch of headlines that are really good and that have been tested in a lot of direct response ads and everything. But essentially, I think for these kind of things, you just need to keep a swipe file, and then you can just look at them and you get some ideas. But those headline generators are usually pretty good, and you can say, usually the thing that I use as a question is, what if you could get like a desired result without your main problem or your main objection? So that's usually a really way to get people to click.
All right, 2 more rapid fire. What's one action somebody could take today if they don't actually know who their most profitable or best customer is, or identify that? What should they do to figure that out?
Okay. I mean, essentially, you want to, you first, like the first question is, who was like the fastest one to convert, if you have that data or something? Who like didn't even ask you questions and they just converted right away? That's, you just kind of need to find that. And who was investing the most before they bought your solution? So let's say if you find someone that I don't know, maybe they were hiring someone, let's say you sell a course and they were hiring some agency or consultant or something, and they fired him and just follow your course. Why they did that, who did that, and at what stage and stuff like that. This is like a very important process, and is something that you only get the answers after the follow-up questions. So the thing about positioning is that has all of the questions, you only hit the service level by yourself, because you need to ask the follow-up questions. That's always the hard part. So if you give me an example, maybe I can provide like a follow-up question if you have an example.
Well, if we used our example of a somebody who helps freelancers go from 100 freelance website builders go from 100,000 a year to 1 million. Um, what should they, and they've got like a client list and a prospects list, and they send an email and they say, why did you, well, I guess that's the situation. And their question was, why did you choose to work with me, or why are you interested in possibly working with me? What would the follow-up question be?
Okay. I mean, first, you kind of don't ask that question because you're just asking a biased answer. So you're going to say, how long did it take you to take the decision? What were you doing before you decided to purchase? And when was the tipping point to where you, decided to get this solution instead? That answers like the question you wanted to ask, but it just gives you 10x more insights because it's just going to get biased. Because when you ask me that, let's say you were to ask that on my case, I would just say, it just felt right or something. That's the answers you're going to get.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that. And final rapid fire question, and this is another great insight I got from your book, Cortez, which you can find over at cortez.design, is what message should people have right above their where they present their pricing?
Yeah. You saw that on the book, or was that a question?
I think I saw it in the book, but like what like right before you position, or how do you make your pricing, put your pricing in a good light? Like what sentence or small bit of copy should be there?
Yeah. So essentially, you like before you show the pricing, you just try to anchor it, and price anchoring just means you're going to compare it to something else. So your pricing seems like super cheap, and that's something that people don't do all the time. So with a course, it's probably always time and money, essentially. So how many hours would it take if you just tried this process with trial and error instead of using a 6-week process with my course, and you'll get the result way faster. Or you had 3 members of your team doing this thing for 2 months, and then you're not going to get the same result as if you bought the course. So essentially you want to quantify that as much as possible, and it's going to be like 10x the price of the product, and then it's going to be like a no-brainer essentially. Or you compare it to other solutions. So let's say they have like a ton of different solutions at the same time. Let's just say, oh, do you want to hire a copywriter? Let's say you're training companies to do some branding or improve their website or something. Do you want to hire a copywriter and then a designer and then an agency and then a developer? Or do you just want to teach your let's say teach your marketer how to do it, and then they can do it like a billion times even if it doesn't work out the first time, and essentially have like an asset instead of a life.
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate that, Pedro. You've dropped a lot of wisdom today. And if you're listening to this and you have a software company, go check out cortez.design. Pedro does something I also really appreciate and recommend, which is getting on the phone with people, the right people, qualify your leads. But that's somewhat surprisingly rare that you can do these days. So it's always cool to see somebody doing that. Anywhere else, any other final words for the people, or anywhere else they should go to connect with you?
Yeah, I guess you can just, if you have like SaaS company, you can go ahead and book a strategy session. I'll just jump on a call, analyze your problems and your goals and everything, and make sure we're a good fit. If we are, then we can move forward. If we're not, it's not a big deal. And if you want to ask me a question, jumping on whatever, you can just email me Pedro at cortez.design. So it's probably on the website as well, and if you don't know how to spell it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Pedro. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Glad to be on the show. Hopefully it was valuable for everyone.
And that's a wrap for this episode of LMScast. I'm your guide, Chris Badgett. I hope you enjoyed the show. This show was brought to you by LifterLMS, the #1 tool for creating, selling, and protecting engaging online courses to help you get more revenue, freedom, and impact in your life. Head on over to LifterLMS.com and get the best gear for your course creator journey. Let's build the most engaging, results-getting courses on the internet.